Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. My name's Year Old and I'm your host. This week we're going to be tasting the Glenlivet Archive 21-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey, an award-winning full-bodied whiskey from the Speyside region of Scotland. Before we get started, would you do me a favor? Click the thumbs up button below, share this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I need your help to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. All it takes is for each of you to invite just 2 new friends to this channel. Can you do that for me? If you're new here, welcome. You can watch and browse all of my other whiskey reviews on here. I'm always open to your feedback so we can make this journey even better. The Glenlivet Distillery is one of the oldest distilleries in Scotland, operating almost continuously since 1824. This distillery grew in production and popularity in the post-war period to become one of the biggest single malt distilleries in the world. Today, the Glenlivet brand is the second best-selling single malt whiskey in the United States and the second biggest selling single malt brand globally. The Glenlivet Archive 21-year-old is bottled in small batches from casks from the distillery archive, hand-selected at the peak of their maturity. This Scotch whiskey is one of the most decorated among the 14 Glenlivet whiskies. It has won gold medals at the 2005, 2006, and 2007 International Wine and Spirit Competition, a gold medal at the 2002 International Spirits Challenge, and a double gold medal at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition between 2007 and 2010, as well as scores of 94 and 93 from the Beverage Tasting Institute between 2009 and 2010. I like to divide my whiskey reviews into 5 areas: color, nose, palate, finish, and pairing. In my opinion, the Glencairn nosing glass is still the best way to taste a single malt Scotch. So let's get started on those 5 areas. For the color, you'll notice that this whiskey has the deep honey brown color. Also, when you roll the whiskey on its side, you'll notice that it has that oily texture. You can see here from its long legs dripping down the side of the glass. And for the second tasting, the nose. You can smell right away that it is bold, rich, and woody. I do detect hints of a honeyed sweetness, almost a burnt honey smell, alongside the oakiness that is quite permeating. And now for the palate. You can really taste that bold richness and that flavor that comes out of it. I immediately detect the taste of that oakiness, and that oakiness is quite pronounced for this whiskey. Remember we talked about that oily texture before? You can now taste that oiliness coating your palate, but there's also that chewy nuttiness and that hint of sweetness, and like I said, that burnt sweetness. So you can almost taste that sweetness mixed in with that burnt honey flavor that comes out. I have to say that this whiskey has a very sophisticated flavor profile, and it is definitely one of the most unique whiskeys I have tasted. On the advice of a friend, I actually poured this dram and left it sitting at room temperature for approximately an hour. And I was very surprised that the flavor that came out of it was less on the oaky side and more on the sweet profile. In fact, the sweetness was probably more pronounced after the whiskey had been sitting for an hour. And now for the finish. I would consider this to be a bold whiskey with a long finish. And that finish is mixed in with that oakiness, assuming you taste that dram right away, or perhaps a slight tinge of extra sweetness if you leave that dram out for an hour or so. This whiskey pairs well with roasted almonds and pecans. I also tried the pairing with my chocolate truffles. And in the first round, where the whiskey wasn't sitting for over an hour, the chocolate truffles were a fantastic complement to the rich, bold flavors of this whiskey and the oakiness of this whiskey. It gave it a very nice balance. However, when the whiskey was left out for over an hour and the sweetness increased in its flavor profile, I found that having it paired with these chocolate truffles was perhaps a little bit too sweet. This whiskey's packaging includes a stunning solid wood stand, adding a touch of class and sophistication to the single malt whiskey. The price of this Glenlivet 21-year-old archive ranges between $300 and $400, depending on the location where you live. If you enjoy a single malt that is bold, rich, and flavorful, yet has the sophisticated wood oak taste to it, then this is definitely a whiskey you want to add to your collection. In my experience, this is one of the finest whiskeys I have tasted, and it is one of the best in the Glenlivet series. The premium price reflects the quality of this dram. In fact, just the solid wood packaging of this single malt makes for a fine trophy and an addition to any serious collector's whiskey cabinet. We have come to the end of this week's whiskey review. Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and fellow whiskey lovers. I just returned from a trip to Vancouver Island, where I had the privilege of being invited to tour Shelter Point Distillery in Campbell River, as well as Macaloney's Caledonian Distillery in Victoria. Stay tuned for an exciting fall lineup of episodes on my Whiskey Wednesdays channel as we showcase the tours, interviews, and whiskey tastings from each of these distilleries. Until then, and I hope you have a wonderful summer, Sláinte.